It's the Daily Dispatch, in discussion with Daron Mann.
The Daily Dispatch in discussion with Daron Mann today, turning our attention to rugby, the upcoming Rugby Championships, anticipated by many to be the most hotly contested in years. New Zealand against the Boks next weekend. The Kiwis come off a series defeat at home to Ireland. The Boks a 2-1 series win over Wales. Some folk fancy the Australians as well, despite their 2-1 home defeat to England. And of course, Argentina have come on in leaps and bounds. Doing the scene set and preview for us, SuperSport commentator himself, a Springbok prop in his time, Rob Kempson. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Hey, Darren. Thanks for having me. No, very good. All very good.
Yeah, initial thoughts? Everyone's saying probably the most hotly contested in years. Would you agree?
I definitely would agree. I think Australia at home will be difficult. So I think them travelling, might prove difficult for them. Argentina at home are always a really tricky prospect. And then, we've got the All Blacks from 2 games here. So one in Bombella and one at Ellis Park. But the Bombella one worries me more, to be fair. I know the All Blacks are smarting from a series defeat, but that Irish side really has come on in leaps and bounds in recent times. So, they lost to a really superior outfit. I would never write this All Black side off. I think the likes of Aaron Smith coming back into the mix, them hurting a little bit and a bit of a change in the coaching staff. The All Black machine is one that's been revered over many a year and should be, and I think our rivalry with them just ups the ante for them and for us when we go into the first match.
Thoughts on the Springbok series against Wales? A narrow first test win, an even narrower second test defeat before a reasonably comfortable third test win, but they gave us a scare, didn't they?
Always a tricky bunch when they come over. I think, all the changes for the second test, whichever way you look at it, I think it was probably inappropriate considering we had to have the last test match to decide the series. They always are tricky customer Wales when it comes to playing us. But that Wales side and the way they played throughout the URC with their home unions, the way they managed to get that side together, I think from a Wales perspective, they'll take a lot more out of that series than we did, unfortunately, just in view of the fact that they shouldn't really have competed with us. I personally don't believe. I think they caught us a bit napping in the first test. The second test, unfortunately, we made too many changes. And the third test should have been what all 3 test matches were, which was a comfortable victory for us. So I think perhaps we did get learnings out of it, which will take particularly this group of players towards the World Cup and has given an indication to Jacques and the rest of the guys, what they can expect from certain individuals. But I think from the perspective of where South Africa is and the players we have at our disposal at test level, we shouldn't be going 2-1 against Wales. It should have been a clean sweep.
What about the Bok personnel? We've made 2 changes from the squad that took on Wales for the Rugby Championship. Happy with that?
Yeah, I think everyone's happy with it. When things get a bit tighter and things get to the more serious end of the high-end stakes, you want to bring back your more high-profile players, your much more experienced and guys that have been there, done it before. So I think almost to be expected. A bit tough on Farsi and co, but they've had their time. It's not to say that they've been totally sidelined. They just, as Jacques says, they've been put on pause for a bit, and the experience has come back in.
Speaking of experience, running over that list of the Boks squad, amazed by how many of our players have played more than 50 test matches. Prior to the professional era, the Bok record for test caps, I think, was 38, held by Jan Ellison, Frick de Preer. Now it's small potatoes.
Yeah, very small potatoes. Now, listen, it's an extremely experienced group of players mixed with a bit of youth that's come into the mix. So, yes, I think they get a lot of rugby under their belts these days. These gents, they're perhaps playing a bit too much rugby. Both particularly, most of our players are overseas. But certainly from the perspective of having experience, having game time at this level, it can only bode well for the World Cup. And the more types of players that you have over the 30 caps, the better I think your chances are that you're going to be, in that high-stakes game at a World Cup, that one-off quarterfinal, you're probably going to be winning that as opposed to a side that doesn't have that much experience. So I think what Rassie and Jacques have done over the period that they've been involved, they have built a squad and they have built squad depth, which is vitally important. I mean, we have 3 front rows that can play international rugby. I don't think there's another country in the world that has that luxury at their hands at this present time.
What do you make of the news announced earlier this week of the trial 20-minute red card that's going to be applied for this year's Rugby Championships, Rob?
Darren, everyone's up in arms about it. I actually agree. I think the holistic game is 15 against 15, and to lose a guy in the first minute for the rest of the game really does. It gives the other side an advantage, an unfair advantage. And rugby is all about equal opportunities and contest at every point in the game. So I actually prefer to have that. I think there should be a 3-card system. I think they should bring in a black card for foul play, which literally means you're out completely. Bring the red card in for 20 minutes, which would be at high impact, sort of, going for the ball and unfortunately get it wrong. It becomes one of those rugby collisions. And then the yellow card, which is as per normal. So I think the red, the 20-minute does add, hopefully, to a more realistic result at the end of the game.
You're amongst the Box squad at the moment. First match against the All Blacks next weekend. What's the mood like?
No, I think very positive. That last win against Wales was very much how we're going to be playing our rugby this year and probably going to the World Cup. And I think as South Africans, let's get used to the fact that that's the way we're going to play our game. I don't think we're ever going to get to the expansive type of free-flowing multi-phase attack that Ireland has. Not until after the World Cup, at least. And let's back our boys. They do this game plan exceptionally well. And yes, it's quite simple. It's pretty easy to see what's coming. And for opposition sides, probably easier to analyse. But, the type of player we have in South Africa, the likes of an Etzebeth, that just keeps on running along. Damian Willemse, the way he's come from the URC now into the Springbok mix and, makes it easily at fly-off inside centre and fullback. That sort of talent and, I think what the side has, as I mentioned earlier, the backup in each position is just of such quality. If we as a nation just back our boys, back the game plan, whether we like it or not, I think this Springbok side can take us a long way.
I'm inclined to agree with you that we should be very, very careful of the Kiwis in that first match. They will be smarting after 2 consecutive losses. I haven't been able to figure out when last they lost 4 on the bounce. And South African fans and South African players, I think, should be very careful.
Absolutely. Listen, the forwards coach they brought in, Ryan, is an exceptional forward coach. I know him very well. He's been around the block. He's got that Crusaders forward pack to the next level. I mean, he's won champion after champion. I know Ray's the head coach, but he's been integral to what the Crusaders have done over a number of years. Particularly when you look at that Irish Test match, I've never seen an All Black pack being so, I wouldn't say easily, but certainly they were kind of manhandled in a certain way throughout the 3-match test series, particularly the last 2 and particularly the last one. Losing 8 lineouts in the one game, battling in the scrums, battling at the breakdown. So that area of expertise that Ryan brings, particularly to that forward pack, will make a big difference. So, a wounded Springbok is a dangerous thing. An All Black that's wounded, particularly after humiliating defeat at home, I'd be very wary of this chap's going to Bombela.
Rob, wish the Box all the best from our side. We await the first match with great anticipation. We appreciate you joining us for a scene set and preview on the Daily Dispatch today.
Good man. Thank you very much to you as well, Darren. Thank you.
That was the Daily Dispatch in discussion with Daron Mann.